Ibis has been killing it with their Mojo line, and it's about time they come out with a good 29er. Well, in 2011, they announced the release of a new bike called the Ripley. It was going to be a 29er trail bike at 120 millimeters of travel. And it was super anticipated, but it never came out. Well, believe it or not, the Ripley is actually out now, and we're here to ask Ibis what took so long.
How long has the Ripley project been in development? We started in 2007, so it's been about 6 years to this point.
So we went through a lot of prototypes. From beginning to end, we probably went through a couple dozen iterative steps on the eccentrics, and then probably 8 or 9 complete rideable prototype frames that we've been riding over the course of the past 3 years.
You're starting with, I mean, this is a brand new concept,
right? Yeah.
So you didn't have a lot to go off of.
Exactly.
And so
lots of new stuff. Nobody's done almost anything like this.
Right.
So there's just a lot of new to figure out.
Right. So just to prove the basic idea and functionality of it, you built this mule.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And we learned a lot from it.
Why has what's taken so long?
First off, we were trying to do something that we hadn't done before, so it takes a long time and a lot of trial and error to figure out, for instance, the eccentrics and the whole new frame format of the Ripley. Whereas if you have something that you're already making and you just make a little change to it, that goes much quicker than starting from scratch. And we also had, in addition to developing some new technologies, we had a bike that was a 26-inch bike in the beginning, and it became a 29 and 26. Because
that.
we wanted to make the, originally we wanted to make the small size and the medium size a 26-inch wheel bike, because we couldn't get the normal rider position with the relationship of the handlebars to the seat. And then later on, the fork companies changed the length of the taper on the steer tube, so we were able to shorten the head tube, so we were able to get the rider position correct for smaller size frames on a 29er. So then we went to all 29-inch wheels later on. So that was one of the steps.
Yeah.
We had a big setback with having to completely change factories and start over with new tools at one point. And that added about a year, but it actually helped the frame quite a lot as well, because that year didn't just go wasted. We kept refining, and the end result is quite a lot nicer frame, I think.
Yeah, this is one of the first DW bikes that was designed around 2 rings. You know, we were doing the layout with Dave right about when 2x was happening, but all those original 2x systems, all the chainring combinations were too big for a trail 29er. They were like cross-country 26-inch gearing. And so we had to figure out a couple of years in advance what trail 29er gearing was going to end up like. And so we decided that optimize around 33, and if you have a gear that's a little bit bigger than that for a big ring and a gear that's a little bit smaller than that for a small ring, it's going to ride really good in both. And so this bike is going to ship with a 24, 34, and that's enough gear for a 29er trail bike.
The first suggestion of eccentrics, I think, came from Dave Weagle when we were asking about how to make the simplest, lightest version of the DW Link system, because we wanted a bike that would be more towards the cross-country racing sort of approach, as we were going to make initially a 100 millimeter 26-inch bike. And so it has evolved over time, but his answer was, oh, we can make eccentrics and make it really small. And we jumped on that, and we thought, that's great, you know. And I had wanted to do an eccentric bike for a long time. I thought about it, but it wasn't on my mind at the time. And he brought it up, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And it's one of those things that's really fun, because you're thinking, wow, if we could hide 120 millimeters of suspension in the seat tube, that would be pretty cool, you know. And later we started realizing, well, that has some other advantages just besides being neat. You know, it gives a lot of room for the tire and front derailleur, and it also gets it out of the dirt and muck, and so it ended up being a pretty neat system.
But then during the development of this bike, as in a number of things that evolved simultaneously, we got access to a 51 millimeter offset. And so we were able to keep the trail number the same as our other bikes, so it handles similarly. And the slacker head angle gives you, it pushes the wheel out further forward, which makes you feel really secure on descending. You're that much further away from going over the bars.
As far as the geometry, we basically tried to make the bike as small as possible to make it feel and ride and steer like a 26-inch bike, except for also having 29-inch wheels. And so the way we did that was low bottom bracket, a little bit slacker seat angle so the wheelbase doesn't get out of control, super short chainstays. But the one exception to making it smaller is that we made the top tube a little bit longer and the head angle a little bit slacker to give people a longer front center that they like. And so this bike rails in the corners.